If you are considering buying or selling in the Lake Norman area in the next 12 months, then this video is for you. I'm going to go through the trends that we saw coming into the end of 2024 and what you might expect to see in 2025. So, in the next few minutes, and I'm going to walk through all the important numbers so that you can make the best decision for you. And if you don't know me, my name is Wendy Atherton. I'm with Winston Dane at EXP, and I have helped buyers and sellers transact millions of dollars in real estate all around Lake Norman. And today I'm going to go through and talk a little bit about what we saw as we wrapped up the end of 2024 here in Lake Norman. I'm going to walk through each of the major towns because surprisingly, it can look really different town to town. And that's true in terms of a lot of different metrics. Luxury market is stronger in certain areas around the lake than others, and the overall market is stronger in certain towns than others. So I'm going to go ahead and start out with Cornelius, which is where I live, and what we've been seeing. So over the last 12 months, we've seen prices increase in Cornelius up 8.4% over the last 12 months. December of 2024 compared to same time December 2023. Now that puts us right close to that $550,000 mark in terms of a median home price. And if you live in Cornelius, you probably know that we have prices that range way, way, way up into the multi-millions of dollars here. Now, what's interesting here is homes still move relatively quickly in Cornelius. We're actually one of the fastest selling markets around the lake. We're sitting right at 34 days on average for a home to go under contract. Now, that's up slightly, 6.3% over same time last December of 2023. But 34 days on market is still relatively quick in terms of getting your home under contract. Now, of course, if you compare that, to the days just after COVID when homes were barely on the market for a day, it feels like it's taking a lot longer to sell. And it is taking longer to sell, but 34 days is a pretty healthy number. Now, in terms of inventory, there were 108 homes available for purchase in December. Now, that's up 44% from the same time last December of 2023. Big increase in inventory. We also saw 35 new listings come on in December. Now that was up compared to the same December last year as well. And we saw our pending sales go up. Now this is good news. We saw pending sales up 20% almost compared to same time prior year. Now, the luxury home market in Cornelius continues to perform really well. We saw inventory edge up, not as much though as the under $1 million market. And we also saw pending sales for our luxury homes really kick up in December. So what does that all mean? Well, it seems to mean that we're seeing buyer demand continue to keep pace with the supply. And we've continued to see healthy appreciation here around Cornelius. And we think that's probably going to continue as we go into 2025. Now, what does Davidson look like? Now, this is interesting. So, of all the towns around the lake, Davidson actually saw a little bit of a slip in terms of price. So, median sales price in Davidson in December, $588,000 and some change. Now, that was actually down 3.6% compared to the December of 2023. We also see that homes take longer to sell in Davidson compared to what I just talked about in Cornelius. We're sitting at 42 days. And that's actually down over the last 12 months, although not a whole lot. In terms of inventory, Davidson inventory up 52% compared to same time last December. And we saw listings pick up in December, 75% compared to the December prior. Big increase. Now, pending sales were actually down in December. And we saw the same, sort of a comparable thing in terms of luxury being strong in Davidson, however. So if you look at the luxury segment in Davidson, over $1 million, we saw increase come up, but we also saw sales pick up and pending sales were actually up in December for luxury. So if you are a seller of a luxury home in Davidson over $1 million, you should feel really good about yourself. If you were a buyer in the under $1 million, this might be a good time to take advantage of some deals because it seems as though we might have a little bit of price softening and we probably maybe have more inventory than we're used to. So just keep that in mind. Now, when I start to look at Denver, Denver's done really, really well. So Denver's sitting on median price just under $500,000, and that's up 7.5% over the last 12 months. Now, Denver, in terms of how long it takes the home to sell, looks a lot like Davidson, sitting at 45 days. That's up slightly over same time prior year. But what's interesting about Denver is we actually saw inventory slip a little bit in December, which was unusual if you look at the other towns. And we saw pending home sales pop up 25%, which is good. We saw listings come on too, 23% compared to same time prior. So that was good. And we're also seeing, luxury in Denver did increase quite a bit in December. And we were pretty flat in terms of sales. So pending sales picked up, which we saw actually in Denver coming into the beginning of Q4 last year. We saw luxury listings in Denver really come up, and I think it put a little pressure on prices. So it's good to see that starting to level off. Now, when we look at Huntersville, median sales price up in Huntersville, 1.5%, so not as strong as some of the other numbers we've seen. Average days on market, 30 days, and that's staying pretty flat. So it's interesting. Homes are still moving along compared to the December prior. Now, there were 90 listings that came on in December at Huntersville. That's up almost 27% compared to same time last, and inventory up quite a bit. Our pending sales were up in Huntersville, 34%. And in our luxury segment in Huntersville, luxury looked really good in December. We saw inventory pick up, but we also saw pending sales really pop in December. So keep an eye on the luxury market. If you're thinking about buying a home in Huntersville over $1 million, you might not want to wait, because we might see with the spring market that continue to really pick up. That's going to put pressure upwards on prices. Let's talk about Mooresville. Okay, in Mooresville, we're sitting at $477,000. That's up 3.1% over the same 12 months prior. And our average days on market is sitting about 44 days, and that's up about 13% compared to prior year. Now, in December in Mooresville, we saw homes increase in terms of inventory 24%. We saw new listings at about 12%, and pending sales just a meager increase, 7.3%. And our luxury segment really, didn't really go crazy either. We saw inventory up a little bit. We saw, sales were down a little bit compared to same time last year. Pending sales were down as well. So while we saw luxury in other parts of the lake really have a good December, strong December, Mooresville not so much. So what does this all mean? So things that we're keeping an eye on, or that I think are good to point out, with the exception of Davidson, we saw all towns really see prices appreciate. And we think that in 2025, we're going to continue to see at least modest appreciation. Now, keep in mind, this is going to look different depending on your price point, your neighborhood, and a whole bunch of different factors about your house. But all in all, the market around the lake has continued to remain healthy. Now, one of the big drivers of that is interest rates. So with interest rates sitting at still close to around 7%, that's putting a lot of pressure on buyers in terms of affordability, and it's keeping some buyers off to the sidelines. It's also keeping a lot of sellers in their homes, because sellers don't want to give up that really competitive interest rate that they have and swap it out for a 7% rate. So that's why countrywide, we saw the fewest number of homes trade since 1995. Now, as we come into 2025, we're now starting to see some shifting, because we have more and more people that have bought over the last couple of years. So we have more people owning homes that are sitting on some higher rates, which means they're not as apt to not make a move, because they're not sitting on a 2.5% interest rate. So those folks are still in market. And frankly, there's a lot of folks out there that at this point in time have just come to the conclusion that interest rates probably aren't going to get much different in the next year. And if they really want to make a move and it makes sense for their family and their situation, then they're just going to do it anyway. We saw the last part of last year be a little finicky, because we had the election, and a lot of buyers and sellers kind of put the brakes on to see what was going to happen. So if you look at the data, we saw a little bit of a quiet down into October, and then coming out of the early part of November, we started to see activity. I think that's why we saw pickups around the lake in terms of new listing activity in December. Some of that was probably a little bit of a delayed effect because people didn't put their homes on the market in October and in November. And of course, we still have relatively low inventory. So yes, our inventory has come up, but our inventory was really rock bottom low. When you look at our inventory, where it is compared to like a 10-year, run rate around the lake, we're actually still in a relatively low inventory situation. So I think as we get into 2025, we're not expecting much relief from interest rates. We do think that we're going to see prices remain at least stable, probably going to see, moderate growth. We're not going to see, 20% year over year runs like we did, but we're going to continue to see probably look similar to what I just showed you in terms of appreciation. So that's a good thing. We do think we're going to see activity pop up. So if you are right now are a buyer, especially under $1 million, you should take advantage of this market, because as the market starts to improve into the spring, we don't know, prices continue to seem to be increasing. So now is a good time. If you are a seller of a luxury home over $1 million, this is a great time to be getting on the market. We're going to come into springtime and we see the luxury market really performing well, pretty much all around the lake. So something to keep in mind. If you'd like to talk specifically around your real estate needs, around buying or selling here in Lake Norman, you can click the link below and go ahead and schedule a 15-minute call with me. I promise it's not a high-pressure call. I'm not going to try to convince you to buy or sell a house, but I will give you a strategy specific to your goals. And I may have off-market properties if you're a buyer, and if you're a seller, I can get you a cash offer on your home, which might be a good place to start. So again, I'm Wendy Atherton. I hope this market update was helpful to you. You can contact me below, and I really encourage you to book a call.